So recall that every idea has several associated business models with them. The question is, what are the components of those business models? Basically, the components are constellations of technology, customers, competition, and identity. The interesting thing that you have to do is to choose amongst those business models, which means choosing amongst those constellations to pursue the one that best fits your idea. The way you do that is ensure something that we call coherence. That is, you want your customer choice to influence your technology choice, to influence your choice of competition, to influence your choice of identity, and for that choice to fit in with your initial customer choice in the first place. So a constellation ensures that everything kind of makes sense. To understand this, consider the initial strategy of Amazon.com. Its choice of customer, right at the start, was books. It was going to sell books. Okay? Remember that Amazon's core idea was selling things online. It was very big. It was a big idea. But instead of trying to sell everything all at once, the initial focus was on book sales. Obviously, the mechanism by which it did this was to invest in technologies that made it very easy for that store to exist. That is, technologies such as being able to check out and add to cart and things like that, which at the time were very novel, but also search capabilities as well to allow customers to find these books in the first place. That was always a priority for Amazon. Their competition was very clear. They were competing with other booksellers. At the time, the two biggest in the United States were Barnes & Noble and Borders. They were both bricks and mortar stores. So Amazon's competition for them was with a different means of getting the books to customers, but also a different means by which the customers might actually search for the books in the first place. And its identity, which is something we might discuss more in a future lecture, it was very simple. It was going to be competitive on price. So this was a choice, by the way. Amazon could have chosen to have a very wide selection of books and to charge premium prices for the books that were really hard to find, or charge a premium because it was perhaps more convenient for certain customers to actually use a shop online than go down to a bookstore to buy something. But that's not what they did. Instead, they decided to be large and to have scale. That's where the word Amazon.com comes from, connoting something large. And so they committed to things like everyday low prices. That is, you wouldn't pay more than you would in a bookstore. And later, of course, they committed to being a store for everything. But when it came to books, that was firmly to have the long tail of books. One of the things they had that was an advantage with their technology is they weren't limited by the size of the store, which would limit you to 50,000 titles, or maybe 100,000 titles if you're a really large store. Well, Amazon at launch could have several million. So it was a whole different ball game. And that became part of its identity. And pushing on that, they initially actually wanted to call themselves Relentless.com. You might want to click on Relentless.com or not search for it and see where that takes you these days. So all this made sense in a certain coherent pattern, which is a theme we'll be revisiting time and time again. The other theme I want to push is focus. Focus comes up in every mentor meeting as part of the Creative Destruction Lab. That's basically what those meetings are all about, is that there are 100 things that a startup could wake up and want to do of a morning, a founder, for instance, and you need to choose which are the 3 things that are going to get your priority. The same thing comes with regard to entrepreneurial strategy. One thing that entrepreneurial firms do not have the luxury to do, that perhaps their larger established counterparts can do, is pursue multiple strategies at the same time. Sometimes this is a matter of resources. They just don't have the time, money, etc. to be able to do more than one thing. That means focus is a way of economizing on those scarce resources. The other thing is that it's very hard to send messages to the world regarding what you are doing if you're all over the place. The good thing about what Amazon chose to do initially by focusing on books was it placed itself firmly in the book space, and no one elsewhere was paying them any attention. This actually served it quite well in the long term. So just to think about that, the core idea for Amazon was selling books online. And actually they had different strategies they could have chosen, which were different constellations of technology, customers, competition, and identity. One strategy was what they did: focus on books, target the technology of online search, compete with the bricks and mortar, and have an identity that emphasized low prices. The alternative was to still focus on books, that was the core idea after all, to have online ordering, and to be an agent for the existing stores, and charge a premium for the convenience of that. Amazon chose to go right rather than left. I guess we'd call it swiping right. That gives me a new idea of how to do this. But I digress. That's what it chose to do. Other people, other booksellers at the time, had swiped left. Okay. Amazon, it turned out, I guess, to be right. I don't think it necessarily is right, but they were able to do it all, and they were able to implement that. And so that worked out swimmingly for them.